4:30. I'd like to call this meeting of the Whitman Middle School Building Committee to order on January 9th. If you could join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. I would like to take a personal moment of indulgence and have a moment of silence for Alice Walker. She made an impact on many, many kids, throughout her life. I think anyone that's been associated with the middle school knows of Mrs. Walker's Wall of Shame from the school dances. She was just a fantastic person, and if we could have a moment of silence, she passed last week. Thank you. Public comment. I don't see any public, so I'm going to say that we're all set for public comment. Going to take one thing out of order has been requested, the HVA system discussion. If we could hear that presentation and get right into that discussion, it would be appreciated. So we will turn it over to AI3 and their HVAC consultant.
Sorry. So, Happy New Year to everybody. Last time we met, it was primarily to review the HVAC options that were analyzed in the life cycle cost analysis. We had looked to the committee to provide a determination this week for a direction for one of those systems. We have Wayne Matson, president of Griffith and Berry, with us again tonight, and so we don't have a formal presentation, but we have the presentation available if anyone has any questions for Wayne or would like to follow up on the decision or any of the systems.
Can she speak closer to the microphone?
Yeah. Can you speak up, Julie? She's
Yes,
very soft-spoken.
I am, and so as a result, I'll hand it over to Wayne, and he can speak for me.
Okay, see how that works? That's great. So when we met in December, I reviewed the four potential systems that we had.
One second. Is that better, Dawn? Beth?
Yes, I can hear it now. Thank you.
All right, great, thanks. Yeah, so we reviewed the four systems that we were proposing for this project. The first system was the air source heat pump combined with the variable refrigerant flow system. And as you may recall, that's kind of a system that packaged rooftop units with energy recovery, air source heat pump provide ventilation air to the school. And then inside the school, a variable refrigerant flow system, which we commonly call a VRF system, which is a series of fan coil units that are all connected by refrigeration piping using the air source heat pump system would provide the actual heating and cooling of the individual spaces. And then the second system, we had a geothermal component added onto that. And this was a hybrid system, which would still be a combination of air source heat pump and water source heat pump with the variable refrigerant flow system still within the classrooms and some of the office spaces. And then we took it one step further and went to an air source heat pump with chilled beams. And what this was air source heat pumps that actually make hot water in the winter and chilled water in the summer to do the air conditioning in the school. And then the last system was a complete geothermal system of water-to-water heat pumps used, so there was no air source heat pumps. And so basically these systems go from affordable to slightly more expensive to extremely expensive. But what we did is we put these systems into a life cycle cost study, which we presented on December, I think it was December 14th, to show all the economic features of this. It was related to the cost of the installation, the operating costs, and he's moving to the slide that kind of summarizes that. There you go. One more. I think actually would be perfect. Next slide. That one right there. So on this slide here, you can see the installation cost for the system that is what we call the baseline system, was $7.7 million, and then we moved up to 9.1 million, 8.6 million, and $10.8 million. So when you put those numbers into your life cycle costs and you work in the cost of energy and the energy savings and the rebates from the Mass Save program, it kind of distills it down to what system is the most appropriate from an economic standpoint for this project. And what this life cycle cost shows is that the baseline system, which is the air source heat pump with the VRF, has the lowest install cost. It has a fairly reasonable energy use. It's not the lowest, but it's the second lowest. But overall, it has a value where it doesn't cost the school any additional money over the cost of the life of that whole system. Okay? And the system still achieves an EUI lower than 25, which is one of the goals we have for most of our projects, and it was also a goal to help achieve additional incentives from the utility. So this is what we presented in December. We wanted to leave the panel, the committee here, a chance to review the full report and come back to me with any questions before we move forward to proceed with this system. And so with that, I'll see if there's any questions that came from the board, from the committee.
Just a couple quick comments. So baseline is what was included within all our specs,
Yes.
okay, that we turned into MSBA.
Yep.
And just, looking at this, under annual expense, I mean, it's $10,000 a year more than alternative one, roughly.
Yes, roughly, that's right. Yep.
Other than that, 9626, I guess.
Sorry, Fred, it's $10,000 of operating expenses would be,
Annual,
yeah, $10,000 a year more than alternative one.
right.
Yeah, sorry. That was your
So the important thing to keep in mind is this system here has an EUI of 24.5, so we're under the 25 threshold that Mass Save wants. It is actually the same system that is used in many of the net zero schools that we've been designing in Massachusetts. It meets the energy code, it meets the stretch energy code, and it's a great system for schools because it's easy to understand. It's a robust HVAC system. There's a lot of built-in redundancy with that, and it's fairly simple without a lot of parts and a lot of auxiliary equipment that has to be maintained. So generally, this is the system that we would recommend, and this life cycle cost kind of proves that out.
And we would still have the ability to turn on and off different parts of the building with this system?
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. You could, if you, in the summertime, you get to an area where the administration areas are always busy in the summer, that system would run independently of the rest of the school. So you're not air conditioning a whole school just to run one department. Consequently, if you want to lease out the gymnasium space for a program in the summer and just run that and have that air conditioned as a revenue stream for the community, potentially, you can keep that space running independently. Or if you want to have a wing for summer school, a program like that, that would also.
Or to provide a service for the community?
Absolutely, yep. So you can control every area of the school individually, pretty much.
Does AI3 have a recommendation? Or is
We-
that within your purview to do?
We're 100% aligned with Griffith and Barry. We've used this, designed this system.
Baseline system?
Yep.
Yeah, it's kind of a disservice to call it a baseline system, but that's
Yeah.
for LCCA, that's what it becomes, yeah.
Justin?
And so then, yeah, my only question was something you mentioned last time, possible Inflation Reduction Act credits, reducing the cost of alternative one, or I guess reimbursing some of the cost of alternative one. And so I don't think we had clarity that we basically roll the dice, it's going to be available in a couple of years when we seek that reimbursement.
There's a couple, exactly right. So just to reinforce that point, there's a lot of talk about the Inflation Reduction Act money, which was voted in 2022. It was modified last year to include non-tax-paying entities such as schools. However, it's a rebate, it's not an incentive, so it's money you get at the end of the project, not the beginning of the project. So you have to support the full cost of the project at the beginning, at this stage, hoping that you're going to get that money back at the end. And then that IRA, that money, that it only covers 30% of the HVAC system that's associated with geothermal. So it's not 30% of the overall HVAC system, it's only the geothermal components, the wells, the piping, and whatever equipment is connected to it. So when we do the life cycle costs, we don't build that in because that's not a given number.
Do you have a ballpark what that would be at current funding level?
You would have to look at the difference between the baseline and the next one up, and then it'll be the 30%. So it'll be, actually, I can do it right now. It's 30% of, the difference is 9.1 million minus 7.7, so we're talking a $1.4 million, so you get reimbursed 30% of the 1.4 million. Okay.
Any other questions?
What is the life cycle average on that very last column? Is it 50 years, 30 years?
So this one was done on, they did it on a 20, so we do this in concert with an energy consultant.
Yeah.
So we design the system, we give the specifics, they run the model, and then they run the calculation. This, I think, was 20 years. It was a 20-year. Systems will last longer than 20 years, but for modeling purposes, if this was a federal project, you're limited to 25 years. For municipal projects, they generally use 20 years as the schedule, the time frame.
Warranties from vendors. I know, depending upon the amount of work a vendor does, and generally, vendors that are installing, maybe not the heads outside, but the indoor units, they seem to be platinum dealers, et cetera, and they give you a lifetime warranty on the interior portion, on that portion. Do you find that to be something that carries over in our sector as well?
Not exactly. So generally speaking, for compressorized equipment that uses refrigeration compressors like these systems do, the compressors have a 5-year warranty. The rest of the systems generally have a 1-year manufacturer's warranty and also a 1-year contractor's warranty. Although we have done projects with AI3 where we've written into the specification that the mechanical contractor or any of the subcontractors for that matter can carry a 2-year warranty. It has to be just written into the specification. But other than that, that's usually the most standard of the warranties that we see in the construction industry.
Any other questions? I would take it you'd be looking for us to set a path today?
Correct.
So I'd be willing to entertain a motion of which path to take, keeping in mind that the baseline is what we had quoted, and you folks seem to be all in alignment that the baseline would be the best for our project?
Exactly right.
Okay.
I'll make that motion.
Okay. So we have a motion and a second to go with the air source heat pumps with VRF. All in favor, and we need to do a roll call vote. I remembered this time. George?
Yes.
Brandon?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes.
Beth?
Yes.
Don?
That's affirmative, yes.
And Chris, are you on?
Yes and yes.
Okay, thank you. Unanimous. Thank you very much.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Next up, update from the negotiation subcommittee.
So the team of John, Kathleen, Mary Beth, and myself met. Mike Carroll joined us to answer any questions. We reviewed the AI3 contract proposal and the Colliers contract proposal. The team had questions that Mike and AI3 were able to satisfactorily answer and provide information around that. And I believe the team will recommend to this committee tonight to support both contracts as written.
Okay. I know I read the contracts, et cetera, and I do have some questions. I don't know if we want to do AI3's contract and then speak about Collier's? So AI3 came in a little bit less than the projection. If I'm not mistaken, it was just slightly, a couple of shekels, less than,
39,000.
okay. That's a few. And obviously, I myself am comfortable with them. So I would entertain a motion, to accept the amendment to the AI3 contract.
I move the AI3 contract amendment.
Okay, do I have a second?
Second.
I have a second. Okay, roll call vote. George?
Yes.
Brandon?
Yes.
Yes.
Crystal?
Yes.
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 Yes?
Yes.
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 Beth?
Yes.
Don?
Yes.
Chris?
Yes.
Unanimous. Thank you. Collier's contract. I know in reading it, I was quite flabbergasted with the difference of expense, and I don't know if that was something that was brought up, what your questions were with that contract.
So if I could, Fred, we did have some concerns about the difference between the Form 3011
Yep.
numbers and the Collier's proposal. And we asked Mike, and he did a good job of explaining why that there was a time differential, and I'm going to garble it if I try to explain it. So I asked Mike to be prepared tonight to explain why their contract came in higher than the numbers that were on the Form 3011 submitted to the MSBA. So I would let Mike take over if you wanted to do that now.
Please.
So, let me just pull this a little closer. We had talked about this back in, I don't know if this mic test, hello? There we go, all right. So we had talked about this back in August when we were establishing the numbers on the 3011. And we had mentioned at that time that we were trying to maximize the grant. And so we were working towards the values that would maximize the reimbursement rates, not necessarily the actual values. And we had said at that time that those values would be adjusted based off of the actual schedules and off the actual scope of work as we proceeded down the line. So what you've seen in the 3011 is the maximum grant values, and then we had the contingencies that would cover anything that would be
Have you
over.
gone back to that August meeting and maybe made note of where in the meeting, what time frame those comments were made? I watched and I did not see that.
Okay. I'd have to go back. I did not.
Continue.
I think that's really the gist of it. I think the other part of this, the discussion that we had is that the construction on this project, if you looked at the historical projects from the MSBA, a project of this size and scope would typically have a duration of somewhere between 15 to 18 months. We're carrying 24 months right now. That's mostly due to long lead time issues on things like switchgear and HVAC equipment. Switchgear, if we did a 15-month schedule, we probably wouldn't have on site in 15 months, and so we've had to extend that out. In addition, with the way our project is happening, we're doing the construction for that 2 years. We're moving students in. We're starting the demolition after the students and the staff move out of the old building, and that demolition of the old building and then reconstruction of the site could be done in a relatively short time, being 6 to 8 months, but that puts us ending in the middle of winter, and we can't really be doing finished asphalt, finished concrete, finished site work in the middle of winter, so it actually carries us through to the next spring. So we do have some extended time there. One of the things we did mention to the committee is the MSBA requires us to have a full-time on-site presence of a site manager. That site manager has to have certain qualifications, and if we showed our fee without that site manager on full-time, they would question that. As we get going, as we get into it, we have project managers, we have assistant project managers and myself that would be potentially available to be able to potentially fill that role on that second phase when we're doing the site work and the demolition only, when it's a smaller scope of work, and there could be some substantial savings from that right now. But in reality, our construction phase is pretty substantially long, and if you look at our fee structure, it's really that construction phase, administration phase, which is kind of out of whack compared to what we had shown on the 3011.
Before I hog everything, anyone else have any comments or?
Just one more. Wasn't there a difference between the AI3 contract being, the contract is to the bid, whereas Collier's is based on the hours? And
Thank you. Yeah. So the design team's contract is basically, I'll say, a lump sum contract for the scope of services provided. If we don't do change orders and things of that nature, the basic services aren't going to change. They do have extra services over and above, which is defined as well. Our contract is based off of hours and rates. So in our contract is a cost not to exceed. So this is the upper limit. If we were to extend this beyond those hours, we would be doing that at no additional cost. If we come in under those hours, we don't bill those hours, and that money gets returned back. So that's how, like for the site manager, for example, if we can work towards being more economical with that than is shown in the plan, which is what we're required to do, we can certainly be returning money back at the end of that. Thank you.
My few questions. Back last August, we had talked about cutting our contingency substantially. And that's where, and the difference is not up there, but the exact difference between what was on the 3011 and what your contract amendment is for is how much?
I don't have that. And I can probably look it up, but I don't have it.
It was like $1.3 million, $1.4 million? Okay. You know, so there's $1.3 million that we're right outside the contingency. The new reimbursement rates, did that impact that at all?
No.
Okay, so
No, so the MSBA adjustments didn't change the total project cost.
only on construction?
It's only on the reimbursement. It's the eligible limits were raised. So the parts that were ineligible became eligible. But it didn't affect anything as far as the fee for the OPM or the fee for the designer.
So, let's say it's 1.3. What does that leave us with in the contingency? Do you know off?
I don't know that off the top of my head.
And I guess this is going to be the purview of the committee, you know, as far as that goes. You know, I believe Collier's is a big company, and they're very good. I know, you know, perhaps there might be some ways that we can, how do I say it, accelerate certain things, or shift some burden. For instance, the $72,000 for the website maintenance. Would that be something, do you think our administration could handle internally?
You have to be a cost of that.
Yeah. But,
You have to hire somebody to do that.
well, we're looking at, what did you figure, Mike? 8 hours a month?
That's what we assumed. That's correct. And again, we would bill that as hours. So if we were asked to do more, then we would have to have a discussion. If it's less, then the money would just come back at the end.
Yeah. I mean, could that be a stipend position for someone in the district and we pay it out of the project? And Mr. Stanbrook, could we effectively do that?
Yes. The issue is that all hypothetical. You know what I mean? Sure, I could say yes and nobody does it. And then I'm not going to. I need somebody to do it professionally.
Right.
I don't have a website designer or we have people that do our website and we look at our contracts. They get a nominal sum. It's not $72,000. If I put that number out there, it's something close, we're going to have some major issues. So if it's 8 hours, if it's an estimate, it's something we have to review.
Okay.
You know. But as we talked through our subcommittee, we approved this as is. Now, I don't know, Mike, if that's something that if we approve this contract now and I can find somebody, could we reduce that contract or revalidate that contract?
So you can do one of two things. If you found somebody else, you can just tell us not to do it, and that money just stays there and stays to the end. We could do a deduct change order. Either way would be completely acceptable to us.
I mean, I'd be comfortable with that. Not saying today, yes, we're going to absorb that, and then 6 months from now, we come into this committee and say, I don't have anybody, and people in town are saying, how come the website's not updated? I I'd like to keep that going forward, and if this is a move I can put out there to somebody who's pretty sharp and wants some extra money, we can do that. But if you've seen a lot, if you follow the media at all, a lot of folks aren't doing a lot of extra anymore. They're doing it as is, even for dollars and cents. So I'd be very cautious to say we're going to absorb it. I'd like to have this as a fallback, let's move forward. And then
I think it makes perfect sense to have the fallback, but if we can,
And honestly, we've been doing that because we've been asked to do it, and we'll be happy to keep doing it. But if you have a better alternative, that's completely.
That's something you want to do.
I know that the scheduling, was a thing. I had a stupid, crazy idea that I don't know if it could be possible or not, in being able to end school early that last year for the middle school and be able to accelerate things so that the kids would be moving in and get that dismantled almost in conjunction with getting everything prepped for the move-in. So that way there, it's getting finalized that fall instead of having to run through winter and spring. Is that a stupid, crazy, pie in the eye?
Kind of crazy. But I think we'll talk to Mike. Until we get into it and see where we're at, there's a possibility that may be happening anyway. So.
Yeah, I think the trick with that is that where the existing building is, there's not a lot we can do with the building while there's people in it. But the question is, what can we do in the areas around it? And obviously what we have to do is we have to understand that we need to maintain enough space for staff parking, for visitor parking, for bus drop-off and pickup and all that. And if we can do that, but give some areas to the contractor to get going early, we certainly would be encouraging them to do that.
And just from a DESI perspective, it's 180 days you have to go. It's 990 hours. If you're going to have an alternate different at one school from the other, you have to propose, get special compensation, as it was, dispensation, so that that's not something that they would entertain until that school year comes about.
Okay. So it's maybe not crazy, but it's to be determined, same as...
Right. A lot of things happen.
The other thing I will say, just on that side, is there's one contractor I know specifically, and not that I want to name names, that oftentimes tries to accelerate the project just because they feel that that's the best way for them to get the project done. So if they or anybody else wanted to accelerate that project and get it done shorter and that time period gets tighter, again, that just, that's less time of an individual out there on site every day, and that would be money that would come back at the end.
Anybody else have any questions? I'm going to ask the million-dollar question. Is everybody happy with Mr. Carroll and the numbers and the way things have been presented to us? Or would we want to perhaps request?
So how did everyone on the subcommittee feel about this?
Unanimous.
Yeah. I have to say that I felt Mike was thrown into the deep end of the pool in June when he was brought on towards the end of the full feasibility study. And I thought he's done a terrific job keeping us informed. The one issue that we did talk about was making sure that when we are meeting on a Tuesday, the committee receives all the documents on the Friday, so that we're not showing up Tuesday night having new information put in front of us. And Mike, and I'm sure he conveyed that information to Troy and Julie, that
Absolutely.
that's something that we need to be prepared for the meetings, and we can't prepare if we're looking at something and trying to listen to the presentation. So that was the only...
And quite frankly, that's, really kicking the dead horse, because I've been complaining about that for months and months and months or years.
Yeah.
That, we don't have full packets. We do have people that participate remotely, and they don't have the information either. So it's been an issue, and I'd almost like to see a fine built into the contract, but I guess not, that would penalize if we don't have the information. That's just me being a jerk, I guess. But, okay. Any further discussion or questions? All right. So I would entertain a motion to go with the subcommittee's recommendation of amending the project manager contract to read what they presented to us in there.
I move the Colliers contract be accepted.
Second.
Contract or amendment?
The amendment?
Yeah, the contract. Okay, so we have a motion and a second. Who is it, the second?
Brandon.
Brandon, okay. Yeah, good idea. Although we didn't do that for AI3. Can you read off the total amount?
It's right there behind you.
$5,330,000.
Joint, let me just, let
$5,092,103.
me just make sure. So the current contract is the 196, the new contract value total will be that 533.
And that's total.
That's total. So 533,533,0.
And you have that part of your amendment.
Okay. 328, 330 is fine.
All right. All right, George is left. Roll call vote. Brandon?
Yes.
Crystal?
Yes.
Rich?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes?
Yes.
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 Beth?
Yes.
Don?
Yes.
Chris?
Yes.
Okay, unanimous.
Thank you.
All right. Do we have an architect report, or did we already hear it?
That was it.
Could you give the committee an update just with the historical commission real quick and speak loudly?
Thank you.
If not, I'll be glad to.
It's a brief update. We had just, as the committee may or may not be aware, the state requires a formal submission regarding historic nature of a property. The site, as was referenced in our previous reports, is not on any historic registry or anything. So in putting together that project notification form and submission packet for the state, we did reach out to the Whitman Historic Commission just to review our submission, and we also requested that they provide a letter of support for the project. They are in the process of putting that letter together, but we've been told that they unequivocally support the project, and so when we have made that submission to the state, we can provide another update, but it will be included in our design development report submission that goes out in April.
Okay, great. And they were very accommodating once we got the right phone numbers, et cetera.
Yes, yeah, and they've even sort of provided some interesting facts about the site historically.
Yeah, so there's a spring that runs, and it was the old Simpson spring at one point.
And I think that is the spring that we've tossed around, or at least the current schematic design estimates and design include sort of daylighting that stream, so making a portion of that stream not submerged underground, but available for, ecological connection and using it potentially educationally. So we are thinking about aspects of the site like that. We've also sort of discussed if the Historic Commission continues to find some facts or interesting, tidbits that we could put on signs around the site at the end of the project. That could be really
Similar
interesting.
to what we
too.
did on Main Street here.
Yeah, yep, definitely.
Wonderful. All right. Does anyone have any questions on that at all? Just think it's some pretty cool, good news. All right, invoices. Mr. Stanbrook?
In your packet, there's a invoice from AI3 and AI3 for $723,815, and also AI3 hired Traverse Landscape Architects for $3,630 to do extra services hydrant flow test. So those were submitted by Mr. Carroll.
Okay. I know the flow test is something that was required, so that's out of the way in the past. So we
Yes.
don't have to worry about any bigger pipes, water pipes, et cetera. The pressure's satisfactory.
We don't actually need a fire pump, I think, right? That's what we were able to confirm.
Okay. And the other part of that was for,
Their general services for the month of December.
okay. Does that all go to Troy, or does he split it with Julie? I would entertain a motion to pay the presented invoices that have been approved by our project manager as presented.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, motion and a second. Brandon?
Yes.
Crystal?
Yes.
Rich?
Yes.
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 Yes?
Yes.
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 Beth?
Yes.
Don?
Yes.
Chris?
Yes.
Okay, unanimous. Next meeting date. Gonna sort of sneak that in here.
June?
February. Do we need to meet in February? Will there be anything for us to discuss and do at that point?
Yes, so this month we do have another round of programming meetings with the staff. So we'd be able to provide an update on any design changes as a result of meetings.
No change orders.
No. And then we are working towards submitting a cost estimating set mid-February, so it would just give us an opportunity to share some current designs,
So-
updates prior to that submission.
We get back from school vacation, what, the week of 25th? Is it?
26, yeah.
Is 25th a Monday, or I'm just...
Sunday, yeah.
Sunday, okay, so the 26th, so does February 27th work? And is that too late in the month for you folks, or? Because school goes on vacation,
It looks like it'd either be the 13th would be the Tuesday before, or the 27th would be the Tuesday after.
Yeah,
27th fine?
Last Tuesday's fine.
Okay, 27th work for everyone?
Yes.
Perfect, 2:27, same bad time, same bad channel. And we'll get the invitations out pronto. Other than that, I entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Okay. Roll call, Brandon?
Yes.
Crystal?
Yes.
Yes.
Rich?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes?
Yes.
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 Beth?
Yes.
Dawn?
Yes.
Chris?
Yes.
Okay. We're adjourned.